One of the most interesting things about the English language is its ability to oppress and obfuscate. You see, many common words have secondary, tertiary, or even quaternary meanings. One of, if not the most important prerequisites of any potential communication is using terminology that is unmistakable in its intended definition. This is called clear communication. When communication is intentionally unclear, this is called obfuscation. Now, what would cause someone to want to be unclear and obfuscate the true intention of their message is rather simple when laid out to grasp. First, I will reiterate exactly how obfuscation is done. Obfuscation is not lying. If a message is obfuscated, the truth is being told, but the truth is being told in a way the speaker knows their audience will not understand. If I had to give an example to a 5-year-old of what obfuscation is, I would say that lying is saying, I didn't eat your cookies, whereas obfuscation would be, somebody ate your cookies? Pity, I enjoyed the cookies I had. I hope I've illustrated with this example how obfuscation is used to avoid repercussions from someone whose personal experience we value less than our convenience. Obfuscation is used heavily by administration. I am almost certain everyone has an emotional response to the word administration. Whether you think of your school's authority figure, your human resources at work, or the political figures of your land's capital. We conjure images of suits and ties and positions of clerical duties. But do you know the meaning of the word administration? Most would say they know what an administrator is, but they lack the capacity to give an exact definition. Administrator is a Latin word that simply means priest's assistant. So the question then remains, who are they assisting? I think it may be our best interest to let you simmer on that question for a time being. My father would say I was beating around the bush when stalling to avoid telling the truth, but to obfuscate is to respond twigs, leaves, things you might find in a bush, when reporting what is in the bush. I do like to keep my sources in check, and if I can forego speaking of my experiences, I do know of a certain charlatan and one of the many claims he makes. Please bear in mind when I repeat this that a con man is a confidence man. That is how they get through life. This confidence man's claim is as follows. A statement made sounds authentic if it is A, believed by the speaker, and at the same time, B, is true. If these 2 points of requirement for a claim to have a sound of authenticity or of sound psychological basis, they can thus be progressed logically to the conclusion that these requirements can be set up in advance. I enjoy reading treatises in the time I am allotted by God in my own graces. What a treatise is a collection of essays which are presented together to allow for better understanding. What I'm about to present is called a syllogism. Syllogisms are a microcosm of a treatise, but because of the size of their expression, can be interchanged with other variables, much like in mathematics. This is formal logic. Since the potential for abuse exists in the receptivity of the human psyche, and the existence of people with motives irrespective of your piece of being is undeniable, the only information needed to deduce with certainty of obfuscation being practiced is incentive to capitalize upon the audience. I don't think I need to say more. Going to backtrack, we've discussed administrators being clerical assistants, but in the modern lexicon, administrators are understood as being in charge. I did assert that these assistants utilize obfuscation which could be considered accusatory, but I did provide a quote-unquote proof of obfuscation's usage existing somewhere. When I say proof in this context, I'm referring to the syllogism. A proof is a continuation of logical steps. Proof is not evidence, a proof is certainty. We know for a fact obfuscation is happening because there are people willing to capitalize on others. Providing evidence does not have the same effect on understanding as a submitted proof. Evidence of obfuscation is but a potential example. When followed using the rational, the inner voice you are able to call upon to think through issues you face, a logical proof comes to a logical conclusion. Now, what's all this fuss about obfuscation for anyways, you might ask? One of the key points I started this essay with was my interest in language. We cannot express thoughts using a language if that language lacks sufficient means with which to express those thoughts. For example, someone might say they felt so happy. But was it bliss or exuberance they were experiencing? Both bliss and exuberance are an all-consuming happiness, but if this person said they were so happy, I would not have been communicated even that facet of how this concept made them feel. That's the reason I've chosen obfuscation for discussion. Obfuscation is definitively alien to so many, to myriads. No longer do you have to go on after thinking, that wasn't entirely clear, but I think I understand what I'm being told, when faced with dodgy pundits peddling disinformation. Now you have an idea of why they are so long-winded. Obfuscation is no longer an alien concept to you. Obfuscation is a multi-purpose tool for its employers. An ideology in an echo chamber can be portrayed as common sense for those inside, but to those outside, it's just an ideology. Human resources will use flowery words for your termination in an effort to blunt your response. Proof administrators obfuscate in order to oppress. Now, please don't be a total Redditor and say, actually, it's to make you feel better about losing your job. Actually, it's a life-changing event to lose your job, and a soft delivery does not and should not expedite you towards acceptance of that. Being fired is shocking, and an attempt to quell the emotional and mental processing of change to life circumstance has every right to be labeled as oppression. It should be obvious this priest assistant works for someone. However, in this context of employment, to work for someone is to work in their stead. Just as the administrator obfuscates with their words, the priest of the god being served obfuscates via substitution of person. Listen very closely to this last plea. The next time you take someone's job, you should know just whose work it is you are doing. You were given an unknown amount of currency in the form of time on earth. It is very scarce and very valuable. You want to love and respect who you give it to. That much I can say for certain.